Welcome back to Teacher's Best Friend, where we share practical ideas to make teaching more fun and effective. My name is Ken Scheel, and I'm the founder of KEVA Planks, and today I'm joined by my friend Ellis Kirkdorffer. She's an architect and teaches interior design and art foundations at Texas Christian University and the University of North Texas. We've been talking about the importance of three-dimensional thinking in the classroom. Let's pick up where we left off. I was going to say that's ironic, the things you're describing and how our tendency is to explore what if we made the planks just a little bit different or added another piece, or people suggest that we add these things. And we've toyed with that. We've made colored blocks, and we still have a short run of colored blocks that we may bring out eventually. But every time you add another element, whether it's a color or a shape or a size or anything like that, it starts to diminish the actual magic of you don't have to sort pieces. They're all the same, and your brain starts to work with that. So we have this natural inclination to start to complicate things.
Yes,
and
it's called the design process. That's, design thinking. We hear about design thinking all the time, but that's, originally it's going way back. It's a scientific method. But engineers have used that process of, I don't know, you've probably seen the circular graphic where it's, with your design problem, you start with research and empathy. So you kind of figure out what's the issue from the user's standpoint. How do they feel about it? How does it affect them? And then you define the problem and you come up with ideas, and then you prototype, test the ideas, and then it goes around again and again. But it's so interesting because it is human nature, I think, to sort of what else could we do? And I've seen, I love color, but like you're saying, like having to sort them out, that definitely complicates it. So I have a lot of, colorful building blocks, but I spend most of my time, if we play with them, sorting do you have this specialty piece? Do you have this specialty? And we don't ever play, playing is sorting at that point. And so these are lovely because and when they're stored in a big bin, everyone just shovel them back in, and then we get them out. So that it's genius on so many levels, it's easy to play with, easy to clean up.
The interesting thing, since I dabbled a lot with developing sort of some colored KEVA planks, and then playing with them and watching other people play with them. And as soon as you don't sort for color, your structures start to look terrible because all the colors are mixed in, and something that looks very artistic and sophisticated when everything is natural wood and you're just looking at the form of it. When you start mixing all the different colors together, if you just randomly put that, it loses much of the beauty, and it looks childish, and it looks like, I don't want that up in my house very long.
Right.
And so that was interesting to see sort of the difference between just enjoying the form of something in a uniform color versus how you can mess that up. But you can also, if you stay organized and don't throw all the colors back, and you work kind of like a painter's palette, you say, these are my blues and these are my reds. What am I going to do with those? And strategically go. Then people tend to use the colors thoughtfully, and it does enhance and change it. But a lot of people get tired of that, and they just want to build the form, and you get ugly instead of beautiful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, with my students, when they're, last year I had some sophomores, and they build their building or their interior in a 3D program, and then they export to a rendering software. And the rendering software, they have all sorts of options of furniture and stuff. It's just, and the tendency is to fill the space, right? There's an empty space, and I'm going to find, this will work there. And it's not design. It's just, it's just, so I always tell my students to let it breathe. Let your design breathe. That's too much, especially when we start to get to putting fake plant images and flowers and stuff. That's distracting. So I think it's just along the same lines, just letting it breathe.
And it's such a interesting thing, our tendency to fill the space we have, and yet that's contradictory to what makes us feel like we have enough space to breathe and to think. If we don't do that, if we don't clutter up our lives with all that, we can think clearly and life feels more pleasant. But for some reason, we want to bring more stuff in and we don't want to throw
It's
stuff
true.
away and all that kind of stuff. It's a strange
I had trouble
dichotomy.
I had trouble finding a background in my house because of that, because every place has got so much stuff in it.
I thought maybe from what you're saying, I thought maybe you would have a minimalist home or something.
No, I don't. I like things. I like to, remake things and things to play with. I've got this, plain background, but it looks for the best lighting. But I have a giant 5 foot tall gumball machine. And as I was coming in here, I said, I should have done it in front of the gumball machine. And my husband was like, that would be a little distracting. Okay, fine. I wanted to ask you if you have ever seen this book, Operative Design. It's spatial verbs. Okay, so when I was starting to explore, spatial visualization, and I came across a paper that talked about children who don't have, whose parents don't speak to them with a spatial vocabulary, then don't develop, if you're not using it at home, it's part of the, thought process. Whatever once you use at home, that becomes part of your process. And if you're not using spatial vocabulary, it's not developing that part of the spatial reasoning in children. And so this book has been really interesting. Let's see, I'll send you links to them, but it talks about, it's all pictures. And it tells you this is what a splice is. So it's higher level architectural education, I guess, is I would assume the audience. I think this came out of someone's thesis, but I really like it. And it's a really good resource for just when I can't come up with the word for my students, but it's got some really good graphics. And I found this about the same time I think I discovered your KEVA Planks. So anyway, but it's been really interesting to use that.
Could you say the name of it or hold it up again so I can see the title? Maybe hold it a little higher than you did before.
Oh, I see. Okay. Operative Design.
Okay.
And then there's a follow-up called Conditional Design, which is a little bit more, I don't know, it's just, I guess, more nuanced, combining the different verbs. So this is a catalog of spatial verbs, but I found it very useful.
So would you say, is that something that would be helpful? I'm wondering how low you could go as far as age where that would be helpful. I can see it being high school and college. Would it go down to middle school or elementary, or is it a bit more than you would want for that?
I definitely think that it could go down to elementary. I think it's in terms of how you use it would probably change. So, as an instructor, being able to say, so I'll show you, okay, so these are combinations. This is just this has the words that these are the words that they've used so far. So maybe if you, as an instructor, I could use this list of words, these are the words that we're going to use spatially. Maybe it's for after you've introduced KEVA and, they've yelled out all of their words for how to rotate it. I get hamburger and hot dog a lot with this how to flip the planks. So, you'll start there and then introduce these words. Instead of hamburger, we could say horizontal. And, we go to intersect and split, splice, embed. And so just developing that sort of language in conversation. This has been helpful.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So I do think even an elementary student, maybe not all of them, but the ones who love building and doing this kind of thing, having those kind of resources that they're an academic stretch for them. There's going to be more than they can deal with. But if those are around in the classroom and they can flip through there and start finding new words and realize that they can go so much deeper than they've been doing with just the basic words. And they might be able to grab that and fly with it just because you provided that. Not for everybody, but for the ones that love this building, they might love it.
And the ones, with the different types of intelligence. This has almost no words, right? It's images, it tells you the word, and then it shows you different examples. But I'm really visual, and so not having to read through pages of definitions is helpful. But, it reinforces that sort of, I guess, learning style. And I love that. And there's another book I wanted to ask you. I keep forgetting to ask you if you have read, but it's Norman Brosterman, Inventing Kindergarten. Are you familiar?
Oh, I
It's
would like that. I have not seen that or read it,
okay.
but that sounds like something I would like.
I had to get it on eBay because I couldn't find a current copy of it, or maybe,
Huh.
no, I think there's still current copies. That was because I was in grad school. But it's the history of Friedrich Froebel, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I assume you know of
Yeah,
Froebel,
sure.
and so it's really really interesting though because it connects basically all of the major artists and architects from 20th century and before that. They all had this in common that they've either attended a Froebelian kindergarten, or like Frank Lloyd Wright's mom was trained in that method,
Mm-hmm.
and like Bauhaus, their foundations year was developed and implemented by a kindergarten, a Froebelian trained kindergarten teacher who then went to Bauhaus and did it in higher ed. And so it's just really interesting, and the images that you see from this, the block structures that they do, and like the houses that Frank Lloyd Wright designed, you can see the direct correlation and how they learn to think three-dimensionally. And it's been a really interesting resource, and I really like it.
That sounds
So
interesting.
yeah.
When you showed me the title, I mean, it still is something that I would love. I thought with the title "Inventing Kindergarten," one of my things, since I'm a professional toy inventor,
Mm-hmm.
the trying to encourage teachers to think about inspiring the inventive process at a very young age. And so that even a kindergartner would be thinking about inventing stuff. How could we do this? And even it's simple things, if it's something that's already been invented and they don't know that, they have still gone through the exact same process of thinking of something that in their mind it didn't exist, and they thought of something new and ran with it. And so, and that's really, I think, what's happening in this book, even with all the Froebel blocks, because anytime a child is building something with blocks, they're sort of inventing a new way to arrange those, and something creative. So that's a very simple form of invention to get that started at a very early age.
And one thing, we talked about two different kinds of block building. One is, what the KEVA Planks with the challenge cards do is it's a structured block play. So it's a challenge, and there is a predetermined outcome. And your job is as the player is to figure out, like, from the information I'm given, I'm now going to produce this three-dimensional, like, there is a right answer, right? And then there's free play, where you just like use your imagination. And from the research that I have, from there are papers that have been, not very many of them, but have been published on this, that the structured block play, where there's a predetermined outcome and you're trying to get there, following directions, that provides stronger 3D skills, visualization skills, than free play on its own. I mean, they're both important, but I think that's something that I saw with the KEVA Planks and challenge cards that I couldn't find in any other toy, that there's an outcome, and that it's translating from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. Because like I said, like, all of the other toys give you this 3D isometric view, and so you've got all the information, and you're just sort of, you're not really starting from the place where you'll have to translate that in your head. And so I spent one of my semesters in grad school, the entire semester was researching toys. I have a big spreadsheet with, these are the different kinds of toys, and this is what they do. And I couldn't find another one that gave 2-dimensional planet elevation drawings, and then you're expected to have a 3-dimensional product. So it was the only answer.
That's exciting to hear about that. And actually, when you flip that card over, it's the isometric view that is that's the solution, because once you see that, it's so obvious. There's no other question what it is or how it fits together. It's blatantly obvious when you see that. It's not obvious fun, with the other one.
Exactly. It's fun to play with. It's fun to do those things, but it's not a challenge like the 2-dimensional piece is, and that takes training.
So for very young children, we created a deck called a Little Builder's Deck that all it has is the isometric, because
Yeah,
for a very young child, they need that. So they're trying to
yeah,
be able to go from a flat picture and make it. So
absolutely.
we're trying to make it easier. But the
Oh,
next step up from
definitely.
that is what you're doing
Yeah,
with
I
that.
guess I'm coming at it from the perspective of only being around adults. I mean, legally adults, young adults. So I haven't ever started with, you know, developmentally what's appropriate for the younger, the people that the little builders cards. That makes perfect sense to me though.
Right. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll finish off this 3-part interview next week. Until then, check out the KEVA Planks YouTube channel for more educator materials and lesson ideas.